Yeah, again, welcome everybody to this presentation of As You Like It. This group, this kind of all-pro group, has been working over the last 2-3 weeks on this scene from As You Like It. It's a lot of fun. I will just give you a little bit of context of what this is in case you're totally new to this. So my name is Nathan Egan. I'm the producer and host of The Working Actor's Journey. And that started as a podcast, and now we've been doing these scene workshops. You'll see a presentation of the culmination of one of those scenes. We have others coming up. I'll tell you in a second how you can see more of those. Yeah, it's been really fun to create this format where newer actors, whether they're younger or older, but they're in the first maybe decade of their career, they get to work with these professional actors and directors and coaches on this material. So it's been a lot of fun. We actually started a new program called Repertory, which is kind of modeled off of acting companies and regional theater from their heyday. And it's actors can work on a couple different roles. We're focusing on Shakespeare's Twelfth Night with Elizabeth Swain and Brendan Fox. Both of them are involved. You get to work on at least 2 roles. You're working with professional actors. So we're going to do that over 7 weeks. That's starting next week. There's still a couple spots left for actors. But just like with this, audience can sign up and sit in on everything and learn and observe. So we have a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of fun. And I will mention the charity for this evening is the Independent Shakespeare Company out of Los Angeles. And so we appreciate those who have donated. You can go, I will drop a link in the chat of how you can go to their site directly if you'd like to give to them. They're a great group. I've seen them perform, and what's nice, Elizabeth told me, is that they've been continuing to pay their staff during all of this time, even though they've been, they've had no productions up. So just through classes or other, other bootstrapping ideas, they've made it work. So yeah, that's one way to support the arts tonight. So I think, let me just check my notes. That's it from me. We talked about the next program and a couple other things. So if you have questions, you can put those in the Zoom chat. I will collect those, and we can talk about those after the group works. The other thing I wanted to mention, this is something we're particularly excited about in this format because we're not tied to a specific production or aesthetic or audience. And I've been just kind of taught this term recently. It was familiar for me to use gender blind casting and all that kind of stuff. But one of the actors in our other group said, well, we're not blind to it. Like, we're still very aware it is what it is. So they encouraged the use of the term like gender conscious and age conscious and color conscious, all that kind of stuff, that we can focus on those things in a way that we might not be able to at a traditional theater, or because of the audience or whatever. So it's exciting that, in these scenes, in these workshops, we can explore that in a way. So that's something that has been fun, and you'll see that tonight. Silvius is, not usually someone, over 40. So it's just fun. And yet I know, Jamie, I didn't mean to surprise you about that. But this may come up later, Jamie actually has a connection to Silvius from his younger days. Maybe he'll share that later. But what's wonderful is you get to see the work that these professional actors bring to these parts. I'm kind of getting into the Q&A ahead myself, but you usually see the junior members of a company doing this work. And now you get to see the actors that would probably be playing the leads play these characters. So it's really wonderful, really exciting. I will stop. That's enough for me for now. And I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Dennehy, who's been directing the group.
Hi, everybody. So this is sort of a full circle moment for me, because Jamie and I met a million years ago doing a production of As You Like It at Shakespeare and Company, in which you played Meaghan the singer, right? And a bunch of other parts, I think. And I was Audrey. So I love this scene. I live in Los Angeles. I was going to say, the other great thing about this medium is we can be location conscious. It doesn't matter where you are. So I live in Los Angeles. I am a Shakespeare nerd. I love doing Shakespeare. I teach at the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, 10th grade Shakespeare. Which it's the end of the year. It's the end of the year. I'm just trying to crawling across the finish line because it's been 14 months on Zoom, which has been exhausting. So, um, I did a couple of scenes with this group, Antony and Cleopatra. No, Julius Caesar. God, and Julius Caesar with Peter Van Norden and Jeffrey Wade directing, and King Lear with Tony Amendola as Lear. So when Nathan asked me what scene I want to direct, I thought of this one because it's been a lot of drama. It's been a lot of tragedy and a lot of intensity. And I really love this scene. I think this scene is as funny as the Four Lovers in Midsummer, and everybody does that scene. When you want to talk about like the wrong people being in love with the wrong people, I think, and look at all the speeches. Everybody does these speeches, and it's filled with great dialogue and great speeches. And I think it's really, really hysterically funny. So I'm delighted to have worked with this group. They're so amazing. They're just perfect for their parts. I just have to get out of their way. So, Philippa?
All
Oh,
right,
and
perfect. Yeah, and so yeah, and I'm sorry. Let me introduce. The dramaturg. That's the other wonderful thing about this medium is we can bring in people that might get short shrift at a typical production. So Philippa Kelly is a resident dramaturg with the California Shakespeare Company and California Shakespeare Theater, and it's just been wonderful to have her in the mix to be able to bring additional ideas and insights. So yeah, so thrilled, Philippa, you can be with us. And yeah, what would you like to share about the scene?
well, I am delighted to be here with these astonishingly wonderful actors and Elizabeth, director. Just to say a little bit about this really quite incredible play, in that I think when we think of, Ancestry.com and all kinds of media we have today, designed to help us know uniquely who we are. And As You Like It is all about this idea that we want to know what makes us unique. And yet at every step, there are all kinds of pairings, one brother against another and another against another, and two cousins who feel more like sisters, and everybody knows each other with somebody else as their what we call foil. And I think that is very distinctly similar to what we have in our lives. Now, in this particular scene that you see, it is hilarious, and you'll see Rosalind, who I think Harold Bloom said that besides Hamlet and Falstaff, Rosalind was his favorite character in the whole of Shakespeare. And you'll see her relating to a shepherd and to Phoebe, who the shepherd is terribly fond of. And Phoebe is in love with Rosalind, but in the guise of a young man, Ganymede. So the only other thing I wanted to add here, because the actors will bring this whole thing to life, is that in Shakespeare's time, people, so the medical belief was that that women and men basically had no distinction between their actual organs, except that the male organs were seen as more mature than the women's, and they grew to the outside, whereas women kept their organs inside, and so the organs had not dropped. And so imagine in Shakespeare's time, this idea of gender fluidity having such a basis in the medical knowledge of the time. And I'd love you just to compare that to how we think about gender and gender fluidity today, and what makes us uniquely who we are. Thanks, and just be prepared for a wonderful scene, everybody.
I also want to say, I forgot to mention before, for those of you who know the play, I've put a speech of Silvius from earlier in the play at the beginning of the scene, because I wanted to give him more words to say. So if he starts that, you're not going, huh? Are we ready?
Yes.
Places for As You Like It.
Oh, Phoebe. 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 Oh, Corin, that thou knewest how I do love her. No, Corin, being old, thou canst not guess. Though in thy youth thou wast as true a lover as ever sighed upon a midnight pillow. But if thy love were ever like to mine, as sure I think did never man love so. How many actions most ridiculous hast thou been drawn to by thy fantasy? Oh, thou didst then never love so heartily. If thou rememberest not the slightest folly that ever love did make thee run into, thou hast not loved. Or if thou hast not sat, as I do now, wearying thy hearer in thy mistress' praise, thou hast not loved. Or if thou hast not broke from company abruptly, as my passion now makes me, thou hast not loved. Oh, Phoebe, Phoebe, Phoebe.
Oh, God.
Sweet Phoebe. Ah. Do not scorn me. Do not, Phoebe. Say that thou love me not, but say not so in bitterness. The common executioner, whose heart the accustomed sight of death makes hard, falls not the axe upon the humbled neck, but first begs pardon. Will you sterner be than he that dies and lives by bloody drops?
I would not be thy executioner. I fly thee, for I would not injure thee. Thou tell'st me there is murder in mine eye. 'Tis pretty sure and very probable that eyes that are the frailest and softest things, who shut their coward gates on enemies, should be called tyrants, butchers, murderers. Now, I do frown on thee with all my heart, and if mine eye can wound, now let them kill thee. Now, counterfeit to swoon. Why, now fall down. Or if thou canst not, oh, for shame, lie not to say mine eyes are murderers. Now show the wound mine eye hath made in thee. Scratch thee but with a pin, and there remains some scar of it. Lean upon a rush, the cicatrice and capable impressure thy palm some moment keeps. But now mine eyes, which I have darted at thee, hurt thee not, nor I am sure there is no force in eyes that can do hurt.
Oh, dear Phoebe. If ever, as that ever may be near, you meet in some fresh cheek the power of fancy, then shall you know the wounds invisible that love's keen arrows make.
But till that time, come not thou near me. And when that time comes, afflict me with thy mocks. Pity me not, as till that time I shall not pity thee.
And why, I pray you, who might be your mother that you insult, exalt, and all at once over the wretched? But though you have no beauty, by my faith, I see no more in you than without candle may go dark to bed. Must you therefore be proud and pitiless? Why, what means this? Why look you so on me? I see no more in you than in the ordinary of nature's cell work. Odds my little life, I think she means to tangle my eyes too. No, Faith. Proud mistress, hope not after it. 'Tis not your inky brow, your black silk hair, your bugle eyeballs, nor your cheek of cream can entame my spirit to your worship. You foolish shepherd, wherefore do you follow her like foggy south puffing with wind and rain? You are 1,000 times a proper man than she a woman. To such fools as you make the world full of ill-favored children. 'Tis not her glass, but you that flatters her, and out of you she sees herself more proper than any of her lineaments can show her. Oh, but mistress, know thyself. Down on your knees and thank heaven fasting for a good man's love. For I may tell you, friendly in your ear, sell when you can. You are not for all markets.
Ooh.
Cry the man mercy. Love him. Take his offer. Foul is most foul, being foul to be a scoffer. So take her to you, shepherd. Fare you well.
Ah, sweet youth, I pray you chide a year together. I had rather hear you chide than this man woo.
He's fallen in love with your foulness,
Oh,
and she'll fall in love with my anger. If it be so, as fast as she answers thee with frowning looks, I'll sauce her with bitter words. Why look you so upon me?
for no ill will I bear you.
I pray you, do not fall in love with me, for I am falser than vows made in wine. Besides, I like you not. Oh, if you will know my house, it's at the tuft of olives here hard by. Shepherd, ply her hard. Shepherdess, look on him better, and be not proud. Though all the world can see, none could be so abused in sight as he. Fare thee well.
Dear dead shepherd, now I find thy soul of might. Whoever loved that loved not at first sight.
Sweet Phoebe,
Huh? What sayst thou, Silvius?
sweet Phoebe, pity me.
Why? I am sorry for thee, gentle Silvius.
Wherever sorrow is, relief would be. If you do sorrow at my grief in love, by giving love your sorrow and my grief were both extermined.
Thou hast my love. Is not that neighborly?
I would have you.
Why, that were covetousness. Silvius, the time was that I hated thee, and yet it is not that I bear thee love. I will endure, and I'll employ thee too. But do not look for further recompense than thine own gladness that thou art employed.
So holy and so perfect is my love, and I in such a poverty of grace, that I shall think it a most plenteous crop to glean the broken ears after the man that the main harvest reaps. Loose now and then a scattered smile, and that I'll live upon.
Knowst thou the youth that spoke to me erewhile?
Not very well. But I have met him oft, and he hath bought the cottage in the bounds that the old car lot once was master of.
Oh, think not I love him, though I ask for him. 'Tis but a peevish boy. Yet he talks well, but what care I for words? Yet words do well when he that speaks them pleases those that hear. It is a pretty youth. Oh, not very pretty, but sure, he's proud. And yet his pride becomes him. Yeah, he'll make a proper man. The best thing in him is his complexion. And faster than his tongue did make offense, his eye did heal it up. He's not very tall. Yet for his years, he's tall. His leg is but so, and yet 'tis well. Oh, there was a pretty redness in his lip, a little riper and more lusty red than that mixed in his cheek. 'Twas just the difference betwixt the constant red and mingled damask. Ooh. Oh, there be some women, Silvius, had they marked him in parcels as I did, would have gone near to fall in love with him. But for my part, I love him not, nor hate him not. And yet, I have more cause to hate him than to love him. For what had he to do to chide at me? He said mine eyes were black and my hair black, and now I am remembered scorned at me. I marvel why I answered not again, but that's all one. Omittance is no quittance, huh? I'll write him a very taunting letter, and thou shalt bear it.
Wilt thou, Silvius?
Phoebe, with all my heart.
I'll write it straight. The matter's in my head and in my heart. I will be bitter with him and passing short. Go with me, Silvius. Well, that wasn't fun at all.
No.
That was I was cackling. So fun. I have no notes. I mean, you guys are so great. I mean, there are all these things that I personally I don't know if you like this, but I love lines where every word is one syllable. And every single time one of you had that, you totally used it percussively. If you know what I mean? Like, but what had he to do to chide at me? Just, I mean, it was like I thought something, I wanted to see something, and it happened. It was really, really spectacular.
You should
Really,
buy a lottery ticket.
Hmm?
You should
You
buy a
guys-
lottery ticket.
You need to do this show. You need to do this show. And you're not, Jamie, you're perfect, Silvius. You're so funny. Hilarious.
I see like no
Thank you very
reason
much.
why, we
Yes,
can't do the same.
thank
Sorry.
you. It was fun to do. It's an odd thing, the Zoom thing, but yeah.
You have a part where you don't say a lot. You react, and
I knew a guy that went to a party in Hollywood once, and he saw Harrison Ford there, and he was a big fan, and he came up to him. He got the nerve to go up and say, Mr. Ford, I just want to say I love your work. And he said, funny faces, kid, funny faces. So
how did that feel for everybody?
it was fun. I just, it's the physicality that it's interesting that, to play it just to the camera and play off of, because what I was looking in the camera, and I didn't get to clock Erika. I could look over at Meaghan because she was somebody else in the room, but I was playing it, Erika as Phoebe in the camera. So it was I was trying to react to just what she was saying, and and for the most part, but it's the for me anyway, the physical impulse that you can't act on in this venue, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a challenge,
Right.
and it's an acquired skill. I mean, I think if we were working on the play, or if we were working on an expansive scene, that we had time to orchestrate, reaction with dialogue, with, you know what I mean, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
That because it seems like it is in the camera, reaction is the physicality, is that, in an odd way. I mean, we can come into the camera, we can pull back,
Right.
or turn, I'd actually, love to do, sorry, I'm going on.
No.
and on, but,
I love it.
love to do one of these memorized. You know, I mean, it's great to do a reading, and reading's great, but if it was, I don't know, it was.
No, I know what you mean.
Throwing that out there.
I'm doing this two gents, and so I can come in, I enter, and I can talk and move around, and then come really close to the camera. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Trying to memorize it, but it's been hard.
I had the thought about talking about the physicality, and I was like, oh, you're gonna be big on this camera, because it's kind of fun also to play the monologues very. I hate to use the word small, but a little bit more intensely and, in there. And it's really the editor who's in charge when you're doing camera of the take and the response and that kind of a thing. I wish there was a way, and I might be outing myself as a total Luddite, that you could drop and drag whoever you're talking to where you need your eye to be.
You can.
See,
you just have to, depending on how you do it, that on what platform you're on.
Pin.
You can pin them, and then I think, on my iPad I can do it with my finger, but I think if you're on a desktop, you can do it with your mouse, where you can move people around. Because I was doing it the other week.
I might.
And I found for myself, because I have been doing it on a desktop with my phone as a camera. There's like a program you can do, and I had the phone low enough that I had, Jamie on one side and Erika on the other. So I was like, oh, here is my Silvius and here is and it worked really well. And this, I'm on my iPad where the camera's on the side. So I had one eye on Jamie, but I couldn't really see Erika at all. And it's like, well, then you're just acting with yourself. I was like, is it better than to just I'm not ever looking directly at anyone, but I'm really seeing who I'm talking to. And it's a very strange challenge on a different device.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jamie.
So when I'm doing this two gents, I pin the guy who's playing Valentine, and I hide my self view, so all I see is him, and I move his square to right under the camera.
Well, one of the things I thought was curious about, although Philippa, do you have something to say?
Oh, I was just going to say very briefly, Erika, I loved your expression when you were describing how you're described: black hair, black eyes, very unhappy to be describing this. And I was just going to mention to anybody watching this that what's so intriguing is we can actually date a sonnet like 130 by this play, because if hairs be black hairs grow on her head, and black wires grow on her head, I'm sorry. And so Shakespeare was obviously thinking about this at the very same time that he was writing sonnet 130. And just for the members of the audience, because we have no records of any of these plays or sonnets in Shakespeare's original hand. And so that's one of the ways we do our dating, to actually think of those lines and pair them together.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, I love it. It's like I was saying earlier that this was really, we were talking about two gents. Never mind. I kind of want to play Phoebe like this.
And obviously, Erika, you were hitting the now counterfeit to swoon, now fall down. I love that.
Your note. What is that? Go ahead. But it was very funny, because when Meaghan was doing, and why I pray you, that speech, especially on Zoom, having to be careful not to speak over, because you don't know if the volume will go out, but also to be sitting there live, but not making a sound. There's so many, because if you on stage, while you wouldn't necessarily be vocalizing while you're listening to this, there would be a life to it and a breathing that just doesn't exist in the dimension of this medium, I guess. But it was interesting to notice.
Well, Elizabeth, you had mentioned before we got started, and I'm just curious if you wanted to still do this. I think you were talking about maybe working on some of the speeches with each of the actors. Was that something you wanted to?
Well, if you'll indulge me, I when the world went to stay at home, I joined every single kind of Zoom Shakespeare group I could because I knew I was going to have to learn how to teach kids. And I've you know been exposed to some really cool teachers out of the RSC and out of the UK, and there's some really cool exercises that even at my advanced eloquent age was like, wow, this is really cool. So I just wanted to share them with you because I know that we're all teachers too. And if you would just, Silvius, that speech where you say, so holy and so perfect is my love. I only picked this one because it's a really good example of what I want to talk about. So if you have a character, if you have a line, I was talking about having a line that's filled with monosyllables, words that have one syllable, like for what had he to do to chide at me. I love those, and the common wisdom is that it forces you to slow down. It's somebody who's trying to work things out. Philippa, if you feel differently, just shout out. But that the single syllable words is somebody who's trying to come up with a solution for an issue. They're working through something. And then if you have a multi-syllable word, what does that tell us? What does that mean for us? So, Jamie, look at that speech, so holy and so perfect is my love. And I want you to find multi-syllable words that have single syllable words on either side. So short word, long word, and then a short word. A single syllable word on either side of a multi-syllable word.
Right. So holy and so perfect is my love, and I in such a poverty of grace, that I shall think it a most plenteous crop to glean the broken ears that after the man that the main harvest reaps. Loose now and then a scattered smile, and that I'll live upon.
So what has been suggested to me is if you have a single syllable word on either side, bookending a multi-syllable word, and if you have a character like Silvius, and all of these exercises, like all of the exercises, if it's useful, if you can use it, if it opens a door for you, great. But if it doesn't, move on. Is he proud of big words? Is he pulling big words together and super proud of them? And so you could choose to use the single syllable word as like a ta-da, look at this fancy word I'm about to say. It kind of like shines a spotlight on the multi-syllable word. If that works for you. If it's something cool for you. So can you do that again and maybe Silvius is really proud of his vocabulary, proud of the language that he's pulling together.
So holy and so perfect is my love, and I in such a poverty of grace, that I shall think it a most plenteous crop to glean the broken ears after the man that the main harvest reaps. Loose now and then a scattered smile, and that I'll live upon.
How did that feel?
That's fun.
And what's so interesting is that speech, perfect, poverty, and plenteous. What's up with all the P words?
Yeah.
It's just interesting. It's just kind of fun. And you can play around with it and use it if you like it, but I think it's kind of cool.
And it also connects so beautifully to the way that wealth and poverty, I'm going to use another P word, peppers this play. So the idea of, Celia and Rosalind come into the forest and Celia immediately says, oh, I'd like to buy this spot. It's really attractive. And so they're used to having plenty, and suddenly to be in an arena of poverty, where money, there's no clock in the forest and there's no use for money in the forest. And yet to have those notions be at the basis of a lot of the feelings about emotion it's so beautiful.
And
yes.
I mean, what do you know about poverty, Silvius? You've only been here.
Yes. Yes, and that I'm, you know, the smallest, the slightest show of affection I can feast upon.
So
I mean,
another example of this exercise being kind of cool, and what you were just doing, Jamie, reminded me of this speech from Viola's Ring speech. My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him, and she, mistaken, seems to dote on me. So those words are having to be searched for. And then interestingly enough, all three M's. I mean, she's like titling Orsino is my master, I poor monster, and she mistaken. So if you subscribe to the notion that he didn't do anything by accident, it's just kind of another cool way into the text, I think.
That's absolutely right. I mean, yeah, the form and function.
Excellent. Okay, great. Do you want to do the scene again, or Philippa, did you have anything else? So also Erika and Meaghan, if you want to play around with that too, looking for those multi-syllable words bookended by monosyllable words, it's just fun, you know, a peevish boy, you know, maybe that's a word that Phoebe needs to search for and then she finds it and she's kind of proud of it. It's not anything that I think anybody would pick up in performance, but you know, I think that especially the rustic characters are proud of the language, proud of them being able to. Cicatrice, wow, where'd you pull that from? You know?
Well, it's like, you know, I think it lends itself because Phoebe is what I call an ardent 7. She's smart and she's gorgeous, and she has no competition. So there's no, so you know, an ardent 7. That's me.
That's like my favorite thing I got out of this whole process is Arden 7. The best.
Now with Rosalind, who speaks like this all the time, you know, when she pulls out any of her lineaments, does she use that language all the time? It doesn't stand out. It doesn't get a spotlight
I think
shown on.
so. Yeah, she's such a language lady. That's like her. That's her MO. So I think for her, it's like, of course you would say that instead of her looks, you know.
Right. Okay, cool. Should we do it one more time?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you guys are so spectacular. I'm actually going to be sad to say goodbye to y'all at the end of this.
But using the French from Ardennes, it won't be goodbye. It'll be au revoir.
Au revoir. So
There'll be a next time.
I think you guys are just spectacular, and it's been an honor and a privilege. So let's just go for it. Blow at the stops. You know, have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it without self-view this time and see
what happens.
If that makes any difference.
I don't want to see myself.
No, it's horrific. Okay. Oh, Phoebe. Oh, Corin, that thou knewest how I do love her. No, Corin, being old, thou canst not guess. Though in thy youth, thou wast as true a lover as ever sighed upon a midnight pillow. But if thy love were ever like to mine, as sure I think never did man love so. How many actions most ridiculous hast thou been drawn to by thy fantasy? Oh, thou didst then never love so heartily, if thou rememberest not the slightest folly that ever love did make thee run into, thou hast not loved. Or if thou hast not sat as I do now, wearing thy hearer in thy mistress' praise, thou hast not loved. Or if thou hast not broke from company abruptly, as my passion now makes me, thou hast not loved. Oh, Phoebe, Phoebe, Phoebe. Oh, sweet Phoebe. Do not scorn me. Do not, Phoebe, say that thou love me not, but say not so in bitterness. The common executioner, whose heart the accustomed sight of death makes hard, falls not the axe upon the humbled neck, but first begs pardon. Will you sterner be than he that dies and lives by bloody drops?
I would not be thy executioner. I fly thee, for I would not injure thee. Thou tell'st me there is murder in mine eye. 'Tis pretty sure and very probable that eyes that are the frailest and softest things, who shut their coward gates on enemies, should be called tyrants, butchers, murderers. Now, I do frown on thee with all my heart, and if mine eye can wound, now let them kill thee. Now, counterfeit to swoon. Yep. Fall down. Why now fall down? Or if thou canst not, no, for shame, lie not to say mine eyes are murderers. Now, show the wound mine eye hath made thee. Scratch thee but with a pin, and there remains some scar of it. Lean upon a rush, the cicatrice and capable impressure thy palm some moment keeps. But now mine eyes, which I have darted at thee, hurt thee not, nor I am sure there is no force in eyes that can do hurt.
Oh, dear Phoebe, if ever, as that ever may be near, you meet in some fresh cheek the power of fancy, then shall you know the wounds invisible that love's keen arrows make.
But till that time, come not thou near me. And when that time comes, afflict me with thy mocks. Pity me not, as till that time I shall not pity thee.
Oh.
And why, I pray you? Who might be your mother that you insult, exult, and all at once over the wretched? But though you have no beauty, by my faith, I can see no more in you than without candle may go dark to bed. Must you therefore be proud and pitiless? Why, what means this? Why look you so on me? I see no more in you than in the ordinary of nature's sailor. Odds my little life, I think she means to tangle my eyes too. Ah, no, faith, proud mistress, hope not after it. 'Tis not your inky brow, your black silk hair, your bugle eyeballs, nor your cheek of cream can entame my spirits to your worship. You, foolish shepherd, wherefore do you follow her like foggy south puffing with wind and rain? You are 1,000 times a properer man than she a woman. 'Tis such fools as you make the world full of ill-favored children. 'Tis not her glass, but you that flatter her, and out of you she sees herself more proper than any of her lineaments can show her. But mistress, know thyself. Down on your knees and thank heaven, fasting for a good man's love. For I may tell you, friendly in your ear, sell when you can. You are not for all markets. Cry the man mercy. Love him. Take his offer. Foul is most foul, being foul to be a scoffer. So take her to you, shepherd. fare you well.
Sweet youth, I pray you chide a year together. I had rather hear you chide than this man woo.
He's fallen in love with your foulness,
Oh,
and she'll fall in love with my anger. If it be so, as fast as she answers thee with frowning looks, I'll sauce her with bitter words. Why look you so upon me?
for no ill will I bear you.
I pray you do not fall in love with me, for I am falser than vows made in wine. Besides, I like you not. Oh, if you will know my house sits at the tuft of olives here hard by. Shepherd, ply her hard. Shepherdess, look on him better, and be not proud. If 'tis all the world could see, none could be so abused in sight as he. Take her to you, shepherd.
Dead shepherd, now I find thy saw of might. Whoever loved that loved not at first sight.
Sweet Phoebe,
What sayst thou, Silvius?
sweet Phoebe, pity me.
Why, I am sorry for thee, gentle Silvius.
Wherever sorrow is, relief would be if you drew sorrow at my grief in love. By giving your love your sorrow, by giving love your sorrow and my grief were both extermined.
Thou hast my love. Is that not neighborly?
Yeah, I would have you.
Why, that were covetousness, Silvius. The time was that I hated thee, and yet it is not that I bear thee love. I will endure, and I'll employ thee too. But do not look for further recompense than thine own gladness that thou art employed.
So holy and so perfect is my love, and I in such a poverty of grace that I shall think it a most plenteous crop to glean the broken ears after the man that the main harvest reaps. Loose now and then a scattered smile, and that I'll live upon.
Knowst thou the youth that spoke to me ere while?
Not very well, but I have met him off, and he hath bought the cottage and the bounds that the old Carlot once was master of.
Think not I love him, though I ask for him. 'Tis but a peevish boy, yet he talks well. But what care I for words? Yet words do well when he that speaks them pleases those that hear. It is a pretty youth. No, not very pretty, but sure, he's proud. And yet his pride becomes him. He'll make a proper man. The best thing in him is his complexion, and faster than his tongue did make offense, his eye did heal it up. Was not very tall, yet for his years tall. His leg is but so, and yet 'tis well. Oh, there was a pretty redness in his lip, a little riper and more lusty red than that mixed in his cheek. 'Twas just the difference betwixt the constant red and mingled damask. There be some women, Silvius, that had they marked him in parcels, as I did, would have gone near to fall in love with him. But for my part, I love him not, or hate him not. And yet I have more cause to hate him than to love him. For what had he to do to chide at me? He said mine eyes were black and my hair black. And now I am remembered. Scorn at me! Oh, I marvel why I answered not again. Oh, but that's all one. Omittance is no quittance. Ha ha! I'll write to him a very taunting letter, and thou shalt bear it. Wilt thou, Silvius?
Phoebe, with all my heart.
I will write it straight. The matter's in my head and in my heart. I will be bitter with him and passing short. Go with me, Silvius.
You bet.
Oh, that's so sweet. Very, very sweet.
Well, that was all over the map for me. But it was fun still.
So fun. I was cackling.
I
Nathan, did
love.
you enjoy that?
It was great. I mean, one of the first things I was thinking was it was really wonderful to see the different levels of Phoebe and Silvius's relationship, like throughout the scene. And I think it was different from the first time you guys ran it. That you were just finding new dynamics in how they were relating pre and post Ganymede. It just like that, and that was hilarious to see that there was some sensitivity there, and then Phoebe would go back into herself and think about Ganymede, so it was just really fun to see. But I thought it was a lot of fun that second run, even if this is the actor thing. You can get off stage and be like, oh God, that was horrible. And people are like, it was wonderful, the best performance you've ever given. So whatever, however you thought, I really enjoyed it. It sounded like Elizabeth did too.
I think you all were just like so free and just having a great
Yeah.
time. And Meaghan, I loved you're bemused and also like pitying. There was this feeling for both of them of, oh, bless your hearts, so funny.
Yeah.
I also got the sense that it was like Rosalind, I have such bigger fish to fry right now than to deal with you.
Yeah.
Either of you.
Right, it's such a it's so easy to lose track of like, oh wait, why am I really here? And I'm dressed as a man. But I loved I listening to Jamie do the broken ears bit, which is a line I love. But a line that you ended up cutting with she says, well, you can stick around because you talk about love really well. And so I feel like if that line were back in, then he'd be like, oh, I'm talking about love. I got this, and all this poetic language about the harvest and the broken ears.
Oh yeah,
stuff
that's a really good point. Yeah,
I love like and with that, with like, I got the poetry, I'm gonna do the poetry, it's delightful.
Yeah,
yeah, that's really good point. Yeah,
that's always an argument I know about. You go, you get cast in a Shakespeare play, and then you get the cut of the play, and then you read it and you go, but wait a second.
Yeah.
This connects to this thing that happened before, and you can't cut that, and so always you go into those, first table reads, and then you start doing table work, and you go, okay, I got to negotiate this. How am I going to work?
Right. This is what I'm fighting for.
Right.
Yeah, big battles. No, I was thinking if I ever got to do this on stage, one of the things I would love to play with physically, and it would be an interesting challenge, sort of playing with it here, that Silvius and Phoebe, they're slim pickings in Arden Forest, and so that Phoebe needs Silvius around because it makes her feel good. And so the idea of saying go away while she's stroking his chest, something fun like that, just to torture the crap out of him, that keeps him around too,
Just enough.
When,
That's right. Yeah.
When I played Phoebe, my very first professional Shakespeare play, I played Phoebe, and when I was doing the monologue, with the whole like think not I love him, eventually he sat at the edge of the stage, and he had this beautiful, all of the shepherds were all Irish, and they were all gorgeous, but he had this gorgeous curly hair, and he was sitting at the edge of the stage, and I started like playing with his hair absent-mindedly, and there's a picture of me from the Boston paper, and he ends up with his hat over his crotch, to hide his, because he's like in agony, and I'm just like futzing with his hair, thinking about Ganymede, and it was like this lovely way of playing this triangle. It was really fun.
Yeah, Yeah.
That it's like he's like Silvius is like an appendage, you know, like he's always there. Like of course he's going to be there. I don't have to be nice to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to see you do something like that more intentionally.
Yeah.
Like what does that mean?
The lure and then to play with how intentional it is.
Right.
If it's just practiced and this is just sort of, she needs this attention, you know, being an Arden 7. Yeah, it's just, it's just so much fun. So much fun.
There's so much that you can do, you know, physically in the theater. Like, you know, I've done this scene where Silvius is doing push-ups and, you know, flexing and trying to show off his muscles and just anything to try to get her attention.
It's fun. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. That's good.
And I also love that you don't have to do anything physical for it to be hilarious. Like you like I've seen it from all the way from like enormous physical comedy by incredibly gifted physical actors, and then like you like that's really fun, and then you don't have to do it all. You could just stand and talk to each other, and it's just as funny. And I love that there's so many options.
I wanted to chime in with a couple of questions, and I'll just remind people, the attendees, if you have any questions about the process or anyone, you know, specific takes on things or how they approach something, you can put those questions in the chat. Or we've had people who are, you know, feel like they want to, you know, come on screen. You can always raise your Zoom hand or you know, unmute yourself or whatever. I think you can all, I believe you can all do that. But anyway, I wanted to, for the benefit of the attendees, there were a couple things that were fun that I wanted to just highlight, and I alluded to at the top. So Jamie, when we involved you in the scene, I did not know your history with Silvius. And do you think you could just share that story of how you first worked on this character, and then maybe a little bit about coming back to him, you know, and you know, at a different point in your life and a different point, you know, in your kind of love trajectory, like what it was like to reconnect with Silvius?
No, I can't do that.
He's such a giving actor, folks.
I will. No, I was a founding member of Shakespeare and Company a billion years ago, and I was at it was the first January workshop that Shakespeare and Company did at the Mount, and we had a bunch of people that were staying in the Mount, and some people that were spread out over the property of the Edith Wharton estate, and there was an incident where I tried to switch over the oil, the extra oil tank, because somebody needed to take a shower and there was no hot water. So I switched this thing over, and oil, I did it wrong, and it started spurting up, and it was kind of a disaster. And I was quite upset about it. And everybody was pretty upset about it. And at the time, I was working on Silvius. I was working on this scene. And, you know, I had a talk, and you know, I was really with Tina Packer, and I was really quite, I was in a state, and we came in, and I think Kristen was running the workshop, Kristen Linklater, and she said, just launch into the scene, just in the state you are. I said, I don't think I can work. She says, no, yes, you can, just do it. And so I was sobbing. I was really crying, and everybody was howling. The audience was laughing hysterically because of what the context of what I was saying. And in that case, it worked really, really well. And it was not because it was so organic. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was a state of being. And it just happened to serve that scene. And so when I came back to playing Silvius this time, I kind of wanted to do that and realized that I couldn't quite get there. I couldn't quite, you know, it just seemed ridiculous. And what was great is that Elizabeth gave me a direction about trying to find a way to get Phoebe to, you know, pay attention to me, to care about me, you know, to find ways to do that, and which was quite active and really good. But that workshop, that moment at the Mount was a seminal moment for me as an actor, because it was the difference. It was the first time, I think, that I had ever worked in a scene where I wasn't controlling it. I wasn't trying to, you know, or emulate or do something in the manner of. It literally, the state I was in was serving the scene in spite of me. In a way that on rare occasions in my career, I've had moments where I've had that feeling where I wasn't controlling it. The performance and the scene partner, and, you know, was just sort of like happening in the moment, you know, and our state of being, there was an authenticity to it, you know. And it's, I think, the kind of thing that I don't mean to be going on, but it's the kind of feeling, you don't always get it, you know, and it's the drop, what you look for, you know, is that golden moment when you're in a scene with somebody, or you're in a production, and you know, and it kind of takes over. It's an organic, authentic, you know, unmanipulated event.
Great. Yeah, it was well, thank you very much for sharing that. And I didn't even know the specifics behind it. I remember you had alluded to something had happened, so I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about that. But it's fun to hear.
I've also been hopelessly in love.
But, you know, and that's the job of an actor, is that even if it has been some time since that, and maybe you're still hopelessly in love, but, you know, being able to reconnect with that part of yourself, of what was it like being so hopeless in love, and it's unrequited. So it's really fun to see you guys work on that and pull these things out, maybe dust them off a little bit. You know, Erika, with your work on this, because Erika, you've worked on Rosalind, right?
I've done a couple of readings of her. People presume that I've already played her.
Okay, but what I wanted to
that I didn't, but yeah.
What I wanted to highlight is that you were looking forward to working on Phoebe.
Right. When I was younger, I did the
It's
and
the
why
the old English version of did, right? Isn't that?
I did the Rosalind monologue, and why I pray you, who might be your mother. And you know, when in the good old bad old days when I still had to do monologues during auditions, and which is the challenge in and of itself. But yeah, I was always fascinated by all of the Bridges parts, and I wanted to add, sort of go off of away for a second from me. With Philippa. Philippa actually did a paper in grad school on that very thing about the being the same sex, and that the women, you know, inside and outside. And then when you look at any Bridges role, and you knew that it was played by a young boy, and then at the end of As You Like It, she lifts her skirt, too. The whole complexity of that, because the stuff that I read too was that the same sex, but the women were the less perfect version. Mm-hmm. And that actually they were warned not to exercise too much because they would overheat and the penis and testes would drop. Mm-hmm. And that's just not natural. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating thing when you take it all into, you know, context. But yeah, so I just love playing the Bridges parts. Mm-hmm. I never understand the actresses who become very strident when they put the pants on. It's like, why? This is fun. You're given this liberty with this risk that if you get caught, everything goes to, you know, to the shitter. It's yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I answered anything to what you were actually speaking.
Well, no, that is no, it's wonderful to hear that. I just wanted to highlight why you were excited to work on Phoebe.
Because career decision wise, when you decide to stay in town in New York, oftentimes the Shakespeares that are done in New York City are often now cast with names, and it doesn't matter with the skill set kind of thing. So to seek those roles, it's tough. And so when you have the pressure to stay in town, you don't get to go to Cleveland, you don't get to go to Cincinnati to have a shot at Phoebe. And they usually want a younger Phoebe.
Right.
Although I think it could actually work as a couple of this age. There's
Right.
it makes a whole different statement.
Yes. Yeah.
I absolutely bought it completely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah. About 3 seconds in, you're just like, okay, got it. This is Silvius. This is Phoebe. Like you're not questioning anymore of like, wait a second, hold on. It's like they're farmers. They're out in the country. What does it matter?
And
they're people.
It would certainly lend an interesting tone to, he'll make a proper man. He's just a boy. You could make a funny icky joke about that too. I mean, just, yeah.
She's been holding out.
Been holding out. Oh yeah. So yeah, if she comes out and say it, I would not be the executioner. Just like
You've been asking me to marry you for 30 years.
exactly. Get away from me.
And well, and Meaghan,
there's a definite
sorry, go ahead.
factor there.
Yeah. Well, Meaghan, I just wanted to highlight that you've played both Phoebe and Rosalind. And so what was it like for you to return to this scene and be able to kind of explore things in a different way, that it wasn't tied to a specific production, just working on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, Rosalind is one of my favorites, and it's fun to take it out of context and really, like, sometimes when you do a production or you do a monologue, you kind of get into like, this is how I do it. And I like it when things crop up, especially because Erika has worked on it and Elizabeth has worked on it, and so we all have our opinions and our habits, and it's fun to sort of like revisit how we say something, why we say something. Oh, you emphasize that. That's interesting. Who might be your mother? Like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. Like, because this is the way it came out of my body, and I never analyzed it again.
Mm-hmm.
Or what if we take it away from some of the given circumstances and we don't worry quite so much about the fact that they're on the run and whatever, and we just enjoy these moments and listen this way. And so for me, like, I would play Rosalind 3 times a year. I think she's just one of the greatest female characters in all of theater, and her zest really gets me, which I love. I think all of Shakespeare's great ladies have different things to recommend them, whether it's power or love or heart or adventure or all of these things. And I think Rosalind is just like a risk taker in a really fun way, and sort of she gets herself in trouble. And it was and it's funny, like on Zoom, and Elizabeth did such a nice job of reminding me of like, like, this can't happen right now, but Rosalind can't help herself. Like, she's a meddler. She wants her hands in it, so it's and it was fun for me too, because I've done the play a couple of times, to see really good actors playing Phoebe and Silvius, because a lot of times those are like the interns or the like the kids with a ton of talent who haven't quite figured it out yet, but to have like 2 like glorious Shakespeare scholars doing these tiny little parts that are just like, I think they're gems. This and Much Ado are my favorite comedies, and I just it's such a fun little gift to do.
Yeah, well, it highlights that adage that there are no small parts. You see how much a good actor can mind, and a good team, a good director, actors, and whoever else is in the mix, that given the right amount of time, that there's a lot you can mine from these scenes. I'll just highlight a couple of things. I did see Paul. Thank you for sending in the heart, Meaghan, as you were talking. So appreciate that. And Joe, you made a comment that you saw Jamie as the Duke in Measure for Measure. The Goodman Theater was streaming their production of Measure for Measure, and you enjoyed seeing that and being able to come and now see him live. Look at the wonderful world we live in. That last night you can be watching eight-year-old production, 8-year-old production one night, and then the next night see the same actor do a scene live. So that's the neat thing we have in this that's come out of part of this pandemic. So Joe, thank you very much for being here and sharing that. I'll just kind of give it another last call for questions, or if there's other things that you guys want to discuss or talk about in terms of maybe what either challenged you in the scene or you were surprised by. You've certainly answered some of the things, and Elizabeth, I appreciate you talking and demonstrating what you like to work on or try out or focus, as a director. I just want to kind of throw that out if there's anything else that any of you would like to share in terms of your journey with this scene. That would be wonderful.
Well, you all know that 90% of directing is casting well, and it was cast brilliantly. And I just felt like I'm just going to get out of your way. It was really, really fun to watch. I was howling, laughing so hard. You all, to see such pros, just bring it and milk it for everything it's worth. Is so fun.
And Elizabeth, just thinking about that, it's so interesting, isn't it? Thinking about how the difference between rehearsing generalities and what happened here, where the characters jumped into the scene. So, they were absolutely human, and we just were in that moment. Whereas when you're rehearsing generalities, as I like to think of it, you're a step back from your characters. And that's what made this so extraordinary for me.
It's funny because when you and Jamie played with the monosyllabic versus the multisyllabic, and as we were going through the scene, I realized how monosyllabic Phoebe is. And I find that to be a clue, a fun little clue. How can I use this? Where can I, what is this indicative of? What is Shakespeare trying to tell me? I feel like he's giving me a little treasure trove, and he's like, there you go. This is all you need. It's all in here, whatever you want to do. And the thing that I love about just jumping right in and diving is, I had a teacher, Richard Easton, and he used to say to us, try everything in rehearsals. Whether or not that ends up being your final choice, the ghost of what you've tried will always be in the performance, which I just love. So like your story about your first Silvius, Jamie, that the idea of that is always going to be there. It's just, I love that. That just gives so much more nuance and dimension to a character.
And
Whether you the same way every time.
I've coached actors in that monologue so many times, Think Not I Love Him. And sometimes somebody will say, for what had he to do to chide at me? And I'm like, do it all spondy, stress each one, and I've had actresses go, what had he to do to chide at me? And actually it's all a way to make it sound like this is the way we talk, and we talk like this all the time. And once you get that feeling, it's so addicting.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I actually once I went to BADA, excuse me, way back when, and Rosemary Harris taught us a class, and her methodology wasn't some scholarship about it. It was what she called the grunting method. So she said, go through a speech and give the value of syllables certain things. So the first one being just a and then a and then a and so on. And she says, like music, just listen to yourself go through it with the syllables, and then you'll suddenly hear I would not be thy executioner. which is the same sort of idea you were getting at, Elizabeth, that it was, you know, there's a word there that suddenly bang hits you. It's like a new chord in the music. I could go on forever about this.
Yeah, you're proud of that word and you found that word.
Yeah.
thought it's the right word.
Executioner. And she's throwing it back at him.
Mhm.
I only just realized as we're going through the scene, because I had only worked on the monologue, that she's throwing it back at him. And it's just, yeah, it's, which could be also a fun comedic thing with she's trying it on. She's never said the word before.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know,
I don't know how many times I worked on the speech with somebody before I clocked the antithesis between I fly thee, for I would not injure thee. I'm running away from you so that I don't kill you.
that's
You
right.
know?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
One
want,
of the things I love about the women in this play, and actually all of the lovers, is they're all right. Like Phoebe's right. She's trying to do the right thing in a way of like, I don't want to be here. You know, I'm not, you're calling me this, I'm not that thing, you know, and Silvius knows that actually they really should get together and, you know, touched on an object. Like everybody is like, they're right and they all have integrity. And
Yeah.
I love that about, and I think that's true pretty much all throughout Shakespeare. Everybody has integrity of who they are,
yeah.
even
Meaghan,
if they're not good people.
I'm dying to ask you, since you've played Rosalind, and it just occurred to me right now that is Rosalind starting to get a little bit arrogant? She's dressed as Ganymede and she's got this scheme going with Orlando. You're just going to come to me and pretend that I'm Rosalind. And so she thinks that she can fix everything.
I think that's part of, I think, yeah, but I think that's just part of who she is, because she does it back in the court too, that she's like, we got a thing and we're gonna do a thing and we're gonna, you know, I got a plan and we're gonna fix it. And like I don't think she ever sits back and is like, I'll just see what happens, you
Right.
know. And I think that she falls in love with being a man because it's so free. And I think like I think they're like, what would she lose if she let Orlando know that she was her before she was ready to give up being a man? She has to teach him first, like, this is who I am. I am all of this, you know. And I think that sort of commitment to being a whole person, the more she learns about being a whole person, that she sees it in everybody else. And I think there's that sense of like, you know, I want Celia to be happy and I want Silvius to be happy and I, you know, and I feel like that, yeah. And I don't know if it's arrogance. I think, I mean, I think I try to be generous with people and I
Yeah.
have it, and I don't think that that's necessary. I'm not saying you aren't. I'm saying like, for me, the word arrogant feels like a negative.
Yeah, I didn't mean it in a negative, but
Right.
as
I don't
like,
think so.
I can do anything. I can
Yes.
do
Yes.
anything. Omnipotent
Yeah.
would be better.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. She feels like she's like, this is going well. Everything is going well. I'm going to do it all, you know, and I love it. And I think that's one of the things. That's why I love like Jamie and I did.
You could
Yeah.
argue Rosalind thinks on her feet more adroitly and more clearly and swiftly than any of the women. I mean, I you know, I mean, I know that there's a certain amount of insecurity with Rosalind, but in the moment, those scenes, you know, with Orlando, her thinking, her and it's coming to her in the moment, you know, is so extraordinary. Viola, I think, is much more insecure. I mean, she's more tap dancing, you know, and trying to. But Rosalind, man, I mean, she's just in that moment and knows exactly what to say. And I think often, you know, in a way, it surprises her how adept she is. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think. There's another Shakespeare character that. Oh no, that's Cyrano. When Cyrano is speaking for Christiane in the Roxanne, you know, balcony scene, he even outdoes himself. That he's like overwhelmed with his ability. You know, he's never been able to speak like this, and he impresses himself. He blows himself away. You know, and I think there's that with Rosalind.
Yeah, you know, and I think it can't be like with Phoebe, the idea that the moment she sees Ganymede, it's probably the first time her hormones went, and that first experience of that has got to be like, and then to discover at the end of the play that it was a woman all along, the confusion, of that. But I want to feel those feels again, and then maybe it does. Oh, hi, Silvius, but also with, Rosalind, that courage of having seen Orlando in the court and having the feels, and then getting to see him again in the forest and having an opportunity where it's that double-edged sword. You get to talk to him and say anything because you're a guy, but oh my God, I really want to stick my tongue down his throat. It's that kind of.
And there are those weird moments where I feel like Orlando is always like, when does he catch on and how do they keep playing? I think is always a really fun question in this play.
Yeah.
Because there is like, they cross the line a lot.
Yeah. And that's the funny, like, I saw Mark Rylance's company do 12th Night and Richard III. And I thought that they captured the best dynamic between Viola and Orsino. And they're listening to the music, and Orsino's confusion was so palpable and it was marvelous. And then at the end, when he sees it's woman, it's so layered with everything, his joy and like and it just, that is so funny. And it's that tight, that thing that works in Shakespeare. It's why we still do Shakespeare. He's good. He should do this for a career.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Orlando is not a good poet, not particularly adept with words, but he can beat Charles the wrestler. He's really good physically.
He's a little like Christian in Cyrano.
Yeah.
And he's clearly a good person. And I think there's that whole, the whole thing with his dad and the court and all the politics and stuff like that. But I love that Rosalind doesn't want to be saved, because she could tell Orlando, like, hey, this is what's going on, be on our side. And she doesn't. And I think that's.
And
sorry, I've decided, but I just realized, I remembered that Silvius is the one that does Good Shepherd, tell these people what it is to love.
Yes.
He has that eloquent, it is to be all sighs, all this, all that. And so am I for Phoebe, and so am I for no.
Yeah, that's right, no woman.
But that's such a grace moment, that Silvius articulates. And
he's the poet.
Popped in my head.
No, it's a beautiful moment.
Well, this has been wonderful. It's just great to kind of be a fly on the wall as you guys continue to discuss the scene. But just kind of looking at the clock and being mindful of everyone's schedule, I think we can wrap up the public part of this presentation. So thank you again for the attendees who were part of this. I can see from the comments, Madeline said, bravo, thank you. And so we get it. Let's see, what is that? The party explosion emoji. The what is that? What is it? The not the firecracker. It's the thing that the noisemaker. I don't know what you call it, but yeah.
Like a cracker when things pop out or something.
Yeah, or it looks like it's like a cone with the confetti coming out. I don't know what it's. I got to brush up on my emoji names. We all know the eggplant. As long as you know the eggplant, then you're fine. But speaking of entendres, anyway, so I will just quickly say for the company here, you guys can stay put, and I'll mention again for the attendees. Again, the charity tonight is Independent Shakespeare Company. There's a link in the chat if you'd like to donate directly to them. If you're interested in working in a session like this and working with professional actors and director and dramaturg and voice people, you can sign up for our new program, Repertory, which is kind of like a repertory acting company. You get to work on a couple different parts, 2 different directors over 7 weeks, and we're all going to focus on Shakespeare's 12th Night, which we've talked a little bit about tonight. And so it's a way for you to deep dive on one play looking at it from different perspectives. So actually, actors, you have one more day to sign up through tomorrow, May 11th. And then there's room for audience. You can be part of that. There's a link in the chat for that. And we have 2 more scene presentations like this. We're doing a scene from Hamlet with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and Polonius next week, next Tuesday. And then the final scene / act, most of it from The Merchant of Venice on Thursday. So Gigi Birmingham is directing Hamlet, and Brendan Fox is directing Merchant of Venice. So a lot of good stuff coming up. Those are both free. You can go back to the link where you signed up for this, or that's in the chat as well. Send you all reminders so you can find everything. And again, thank you so much for being part of this, spending some of your evening with us doing some Shakespeare. So with that, you can drop off the call now, or I can move people back in the waiting room. Again, the company can just hang out. I'm gonna make sure I get all the chat. Okay, Paul said thank you. Thank you, Paul. All right, I know the applause emoji. That's very clear. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. And yeah, hope everybody has a great night. So I think